Hello and welcome to State of the Economy. Today we have with us Dr. Ashok Gulati, a very well-known agriculture economist and one who really tracks India's agriculture economy very closely. Also advises senior government officials and is in touch with the cabinet ministers on agriculture, the state of agriculture, agriculture policy. And we are discussing with him today the farm crisis that India faces today on account of the recent crop damage due to rains, as also a crisis which was already building for 6 months. And Dr. Ashok Gulati has been writing about it and even talking to the government about it, not now, as early as October, November. And we'll discuss with him the anatomy of this growing crisis. Welcome to our show, Dr. Ashok Gulati. Now, you wrote an article 2 weeks ago where you said that this is a wake-up call for the government. It's already very late. They should have maybe responded months earlier. And you said that for 2014-15, agriculture growth rate could be as low as 0 and even negative. Now, as far as I know, after many years, you could be staring at a 0% agriculture growth, and this has its impact on the rest of the economy. Now, how do you see agriculture economy panning out, given the current crisis the new crisis that has visited us because of unseasonal rains, and nearly now 10 or 11 million hectares of crop having got affected, center and state governments both grappling with it?
You know, it's not only this year. The crisis has been building up for the last 3 years. If you take 3 years average growth in agriculture, it's going to be less than 2% per annum average. Now, if we are talking in a society that India is going to be the fastest growing economy in the world, 8% or 9% or 7%, whatever, is it acceptable to us that agriculture should be growing at 2% per annum or less than 2% per annum?
Yeah.
That's a fundamental question that we must put on the table. Now, politically and economically, I feel it pays to get a higher growth rate in agriculture.
Sure.
Because the largest number of votes come from there, the largest number of poor are in agriculture, rural areas.
And nearly 65% of the population is some way or the other dependent on agriculture.
And you know, interestingly, nobody knows it better than Prime Minister Modi himself.
Yeah.
His Gujarat and BJP states, if you look at Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh.
The north and the western belt, which is in the grip of the crisis today. Yeah.
You know, these 3 states, if you take a 10-year-long horizon, average rate of growth in agriculture was more than 7% per annum. And
Which
all
was
the
Gujarat,
three chief ministers were brought back to power 3 times.
Gujarat,
Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh.
Okay.
All 3. So you look at the political return.
Yeah.
You know, people feel happy and they will bring you back to power.
Sure.
And also agriculture growth, you know, overall global research has revealed 1% growth in agriculture actually is 2 to 3 times more effective in reducing poverty than the same growth coming from non-agriculture sector.
Okay, but it takes time to percolate down.
So I think if agriculture is growing for the last 3 years at less than 2% per annum, it should be a wake-up call to anybody.
Anybody, yeah.
Right? Now you look at this year what has happened.
Wasn't it 3% in 2013-14?
But before that was 1 point...
okay, you're talking about the average.
Average
okay.
So, you know, there is volatility.
Yeah, volatility, yeah.
But 3 years have not been good for the farmers.
Farmers, yeah.
Now, first, I think the wake-up call was when last year, May, June, July, the international prices started collapsing.
Okay. I think that was the first sign of
that there is
prices, that they're losing pricing power.
Now, what happened?
35 to 40% loss of price in agriculture?
On in agriculture, 25 to 30% in most of the crops.
Okay.
Now, what had happened was China stopped importing cotton, for example, from us.
I believe they halved the cotton imports of from India.
So, and I must congratulate the government that at least on cotton front, they come up very quickly, and CCI, Cotton Corporation of India, was put into action.
They started
procuring
procuring
at MSP about 9 million bales they have procured. Supposing CCI had not procured this, what would have happened? Prices would have collapsed in India, and there would be all cotton suicides and big, beating to
Although
the
even after
farmers.
this, there are a lot of suicides, cotton suicides.
But
in Marathwada. And
I would say 90% of the crisis in cotton was very well managed by the government by putting CCI into action.
Okay.
And now the prices are improving.
But what about MSP in other areas?
But other areas, rice, you look at basmati prices.
This has been one of the lowest MSP increases this year, no?
Yeah.
In the last 5-6 years.
I can understand when you have stocks of wheat and rice so much, then huge increases in MSP cannot be justified.
What about other items? They were talking about including 15, 20 other items.
Theoretically, MSPs are announced for 23 commodities.
Yeah.
But where is the system?
Practically, it's not.
Today,
it's not implemented.
chickpea open market prices are below the MSP. You are allowing pulses imports
what about jowar,
zero
bajra,
import duty, but you do not allow export of pulses.
Sure.
So the domestic prices are lower. So when the production is good, prices collapse. So I think we need to dovetail the trade policy with our MSP policy. First, we have to decide, do we want to really have MSP for 23 commodities, or should we concentrate only on 2 or 4 or 5, which are critical for the system to maintain? Then we have to remove the distortions in the MSP policy entirely. One state, Chhattisgarh was one, which announced last year 22% bonus on MSP. Now, farmers will be very happy there, but everybody started growing and everybody started giving everything to the government, and then they were giving back to the producer, rice producer, at 1 rupee a kg.
Yeah.
So whatever I produced, I'll ask the government, you take it from me, and now you give me back at 1.
So you have to calibrate that also. We'll take a small break here. Please don't go away and keep watching RSTV.
Watch special report on the black money trail only on Rajya Sabha TV.
Welcome back to State of the Economy. We were speaking to Dr. Ashok Gulati, who is also a member of a task force on agriculture at Niti Aayog. So, Dr. Ashok Gulati, we were talking about the present crisis that confronts the country, agriculture crisis. Now, there are two aspects which I would want you to talk to us about. One is the minimum support price mechanism. Is it working well? Because I have read reports that the government had announced MSP for 23 agriculture items, but they did not operationalize on all 23 the buying by the government. Barely 3 or 4 items were operationalized. And a lot of other state governments were complaining, agriculture ministers from states. The other is insurance for farmers. Now, these are two very critical elements which affect the farm economy and the farmers' own economic security. Can you talk about it?
Let's talk about the crop insurance first, because that's right now the issue.
Okay.
What we are doing at present in any particular season, we are not insuring more than 15 million hectares of land. The net sown area in this country is about 140 million hectares. Now, if you look in the last 3 years, the premium to sums insured ratio, and the actual, it comes to about 10%. Now, that is very high premium. So the farmers cannot really afford to give that. If you are insuring 50,000 rupees per hectare as the sum insured, you will have to give 5,000 rupees as premium. That is not possible because the farmer's profitability comes to 5,000-7,000.
And most farmers are small farmers, in the sense less than 5 acres of land.
So first lesson that we have to look around and see is that how to reduce the premium and expand the coverage. I would say minimum that we need to do is 100 million hectares, because when the scale increases, premium automatically comes down. Insurance experts,
how many million hectares do we do now?
15, 1-5.
Out of a total of 115 million
Out of 140 million
of net sown area.
hectares of net sown area, and gross cropped area is between 190
That means
to
we only
200.
do 10% of the
That's the problem.
agricultural land is insured.
So you are leaving everybody
Out.
in a
90%
high risk.
of the farmers are out.
They are exposed to very high risk phenomenon, and that's why all these suicides and other things take place.
Right.
So we need to fix this system.
Yeah.
Now, to do that, we need to look around how the world is doing it.
Yeah.
The biggest insurers in the world are US and China. In US, 70% of the premium is taken care of by the state.
And in China?
In China, before 2013, they were taking between 50 to 65%. In 2013, they raised it to 80% by the state.
80% the state
So
pays.
first lesson is that if we have to insure our farmers and make them happy and protective, then we need to pitch in heavily there.
So you're saying China state pays for 80% of the farmers?
Premium of the farmers.
Okay, 80% of the premium of the farmers.
Right? And then you don't have this, what we are
And how
jumping
much
down.
is India paying?
India, now what is there? There is one insurance system here, NAIA, where the loany farmer, whatever loan I take it as a farmer from the bank, there is a compulsory premium.
Okay.
But that is about 2.5 to 3%.
Okay.
Now that premium is low, but then the actuarial that the company says, to cover my risk of the company, they say I need 20%, 15%.
So what is the figure for India, broad figure?
So all this, they reduce the sum insured. The sum insured, instead of 40,000 rupees per hectare, they make it 5,000, 10,000. So the compensation that the farmer gets is 2,000.
So it defeats the very objective of insuring farmers.
It's basically protecting the banks rather than the farmers. So I would say that you can, we worked it out. If you have to insure 100 million hectares, and at even 5% premium, you would need about 10,000 crores if you are giving 30,000 rupees per hectare sums insured, 40,000 for irrigated and 20,000 for unirrigated. You'll need 10,000 crores into that system. You can put 2% cess. You remember Prime Minister Vajpayee, when he wanted to build roads, he put 2% cess on fuel.
So you can have a small cess on insurance for agriculture.
And you.
So what's wrong with that?
That's farm input industry, tractors, pesticides, fertilizers, others, because then their demand will remain.
Absolutely.
Because at present tractor sales have collapsed by 30% in the last 6 months.
And the industry should have no problem paying it, because if that cess goes towards insuring the farmer, it strengthens the farm economy and increases their demand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you have to find innovative methods to raise resources, but increase the coverage to at least 100 million hectares, and it will be a sustainable solution. And don't insure for 5,000 or 10,000 rupees. Insure them at least on an average 30,000 rupees.
And MSP part? Why is the government not operationalizing all the 23 items for which MSP was announced, minimum support price?
That is a big thing to be revisited by the government. Do we need to have MSPs for 23 commodities if we don't have the system in place?
But that's for future. But since you've announced,
that's right. No,
at least
this has been announced all the years, but MSP operates only primarily for wheat and rice, and only in 5-6 states.
That's it?
That's it.
What about the other 20 items?
Entire eastern India, east of Lucknow, all the way up to Assam, prices of paddy or wheat often go below MSP, and there are no buyers. The government is missing there. Now, the central government, FCI, would say it's the responsibility of the state government to set up systems.
It's a governance issue.
And state government says FCI should come in.
What about NABARD? I believe NABARD used to participate in...
NAFED used to, not NABARD.
NAFED
used to come for pulses and oilseeds.
Sorry, I meant NAFED,
And NAFED is in doldrums. There is a bigger problem there. I think NAFED will be wound up for procurement operations. But if you want to give support, you have to think how many commodities. CCI has done a great, tremendous job. I salute them this year, particularly for cotton. But
so why can't we have a CCI-like organization to provide minimum support price for jowar, bajra, several items, other...
government is a very expensive organization.
Yeah, sure. It's both inefficient and expensive.
Today, wheat, whatever farmer gets, wheat and rice, and what it costs the government is 50% higher. So you are adding 50%, 50. If your farmer is getting 14 rupees per kg for wheat, then the cost to the government is 22 rupees.
Sure.
Now, markets can do at a much cheaper rate. There is a lot that needs to be cleaned up. We need to think instead of, okay, if the market price is lower than the MSP, is there a mechanism we can put to compensate the farmer through deficiency payment?
Okay. We'll take a small break here. Please don't go and keep watching RSTV. Welcome back to State of the Economy. We are speaking to Professor Ashok Gulati, agriculture economist, on the impending farm crisis. Dr. Gulati, we were discussing MSP. Now, doesn't it make sense? The government has a stated policy that about 23 items that farmers produce will be procured by the government, and a minimum support price will be given. But as you said, in practice, they only do it for wheat, rice. Now, and now cotton, you said they're doing a decent job on cotton. Now, shouldn't there be a system to extend this to 23 items, because that's what will cover the farmers' produce, right? So how can we leave aside jowar, bajra, and many of these items which are produced by farmers and consumed by the people, right?
You know, we have to look at how much it is going to cost. As I said, that government is a very expensive organization when they start doing business. So can we find out more cost-effective means to give more remuneration to the farmer? Because in pockets where you don't have a system in place, Bihar is a classic case. And we used to go there, and farmers never would ask you to announce a higher MSP. They will say, whatever you have announced, please give us, make sure that we get that. And market price will be 20% below MSP. So in fact, in my first reports to the government at that time, in my previous incarnation, I suggested that, you know, at least 3,000 rupees per hectare should be given to the farmer, because the state has failed to give him the MSP which you have announced. So either you don't announce and let, you know, so we have to think switching from price policy approach to help the farmer to an income policy approach. And given the Jan Dhan Yojana of the Prime Minister, where every person is likely to have account, I think we have to identify the farmers and give them direct support, whatever best
income support.
So that is going to be the futuristic.
Has this worked in some other countries?
Most of the latest, I'll give you the example of China. China, crop insurance, it's very fascinating. If yesterday there is a hailstorm, tomorrow morning there could be money in their account of the farmers without even knowing that, within 24 hours.
Which this government can do even now. They have Jan Dhan accounts.
They can
transfer money in the
there was
accounts
a
of
very
farmers.
good committee report by P.K. Mishra, who is nowadays in the Prime Minister's office, actually. Last year he submitted a report on crop insurance.
And he's also an agriculture
expert. And he's a former agriculture secretary. And it's a beautiful report. I think if the government can implement just that, it will put on a very sustainable system, the insurance system of the country. Minor tweaks here and there.
And what exactly does he recommend in that report?
Exactly. You know, you can take the pictures of each farm through pixels. You call from your farm and immediately the picture can be taken, and through satellite you can see how much damage can be done, and each farm's number can be given through Jan Dhan, like Aadhaar system, and then people can see how much area and how many farmers in this area have been impacted, and directly release the money in within 24 hours, 48 hours.
You don't have to go through the state bureaucracy or the local bureaucracy.
Forget about that. You know, the beauty is India has great IT. Satellites are there. We used to use the high tech for the benefit of the bottom. That would be the greatest innovation of Indian mind, how we help our own farmers and labor. So I think...
Can we do this now? In the middle of this crisis, can it be done?
Well, it's a little because you don't have...
because the government claims to have created 15 crore bank accounts.
That's right.
I'm sure nearly 50%
they should know how many are farmers and all that. And in those areas where the damage has been done, it can be verified through satellites, through agronomy experts, and then you can decide that how much you want to release. But all said and done, I was giving the example of China. Lately, China, last 3 years has about $17 billion they have transferred directly to farmers on account of something called the input subsidy. So fertilizers or seed or others, they give it directly to the farmer's account.
And the farmer can import it?
Then the market has to compete.
Okay.
So it is market prices, money goes to the farmer, you empower the farmer and he chooses. At present, the money in our system goes to the companies.
Yeah. And in fertilizer, it goes to the companies. Yeah.
And prices are so low of urea, it is being smuggled out of the country to Nepal, Bangladesh, other places, and being used for non-agriculture use. So all these loopholes.
So you're saying there's distortion at every part of the value chain, agriculture value
because
chain.
we are trying to achieve equity through price policy, which is a wrong instrument. We must learn to use income policy to help those who are needy.
So is this government looking at this framework?
You know, we have been
you interact with your Niti Aayog and...
I have been interacting with the previous government on these issues and with the new government also on these issues. I would say it's a very slow process. The government moves very, very slowly, and unfortunately then the burden of adjustment has to be taken care of by the farmer.
But tell me, given the present crisis, how long do you think will take to recover from this? And you said that agriculture growth rate will be near zero for 2014-15.
Yeah.
What do you anticipate in 15-16?
You know, at present we are coming to a situation where we are fearing El Nino.
Okay.
Now, El Nino normally is said to create drought.
Yeah.
But that's not always the case. Our historical analysis showed
sure.
that it can be 70–80% probability.
Okay.
Although our private sector SkyMet has said no, we are going to get normal rain. We don't know as yet. Our official Met has to predict what it, if this year, unfortunately, God willing, if that doesn't, you know, if we go wrong on the rainfall, I tell you, it's going to be a major crisis in agriculture. It's already reeling under a lot of stress. And this is a wake-up call for any government. And I think BJP states know. I gave the example 3 states where politically it matters very high, agriculture. So if we can ensure at least 4% rate of growth in agriculture, people will salute you. And you need to focus on that.
And interestingly, the crisis has happened in the northern and western region, from where BJP got nearly 80% of all the Lok Sabha seats.
Their goodwill is at stake.
Yeah, their whole goodwill is at stake. And do you think, and no wonder many BJP governments have written to the centre, to the agriculture minister and to the PMO, that for the Kharif season, where the sowing happens during rains, they should give farmers much higher MSPs. And I remember you telling me that that there is also a problem with having one MSP for the whole country, because it's a one-size-fits-all price doesn't work, because Punjab may be more efficient than Orissa, so Orissa may need a different MSP. So do you think we can have an MSP which is decentralized? Just as you're saying that everything should be decentralized, this government believes in decentralization.
If the central policy, you are working on that, you know, at the end of the round, a most competitive state should be able to produce those commodities. That's how specialization takes place. If you try to protect, if I'm more inefficient and therefore I get higher MSP, that's a disaster for the country. You know, the solution of that is, Maharashtra is a classic case, because larger area is unirrigated, productivity of cotton is half of that in Gujarat. Supposing you give double the MSP of cotton in Maharashtra, you are going to create a mess in the system. So that is not viable.
So you can't incentivize inefficiency.
But give, either you invest in irrigation, you know, agri-food space, 5 ministries, agriculture, food, fertilizer, water resources and food processing. A government has allocated 2.28 lakh crores. Huge sum.
For these 5 ministries.
But 85 to 87% is going as subsidies. We need to convert that as investments. Then agriculture will be flying.
That makes sense. Converting subsidies into investments. Thank you very much, Dr. Ashok Gulati, for talking to us. That's all we have in this edition of State of the Economy. We'll be back with you next week.